Welcome to Through the Drama. Chris Harrison and Lauren Zima with you. Happy Friday. We are almost there, almost to the weekend. But before we get there, we have a very special show today because we're going to continue an amazing conversation that we started yesterday, LZ.
Yes, if you guys watched or listened to our episode on Thursday, I revealed that I have been freezing my eggs. I've gone through 3 rounds of egg freezing, and we wanted to dive into that journey, help inform people because I felt so deeply uninformed. And to help us do all that, we welcomed my wonderful doctor from here in Austin, Texas, Dr. Natalie Crawford. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we talked about egg freezing.
Yes.
We talked about the numbers, the age that you need to do it. The second half of that is IVF.
Mm-hmm.
And a huge overarching umbrella on this whole conversation is just getting pregnant,
Right.
fertility. There's that separation of like, hey, I'm freezing my eggs as an investment, as you say, versus I'm freezing my eggs, I'm doing IVF, I want to get pregnant, and I want to get pregnant soon, maybe. So we kind of wanted to talk to you about all of this because I'll be honest, Dr. Crawford, like I'm on a group text with all my sorority sisters still, and so many of my dear friends, all in their late 30s, are struggling with getting pregnant, struggling with fertility. I am one of many who have done egg freezing for various reasons. Is fertility much worse now than it used to be? Because when I talked to my mom about this, or even you
Right.
had Josh and Taylor about 25 years ago.
Right.
I don't know if people didn't talk about it as much or if things are worse now, but it seems like everyone is struggling with fertility.
Yeah, Lauren, it's a great question. And 2 things can be true at once. People didn't talk about it as much. And a lot of times when it comes to infertility or the inability to get pregnant, this was self-reported surveys. And a lot of the old data came from people who had kids and asking them, how long did it take you? Which completely excluded everybody who couldn't get pregnant. But in addition to that, rates of infertility are increasing. Even just 5 years ago, I would have sat here and told you 1 out of 8 couples would have infertility. Now worldwide, it's 1 out of 6. And in the US, if you're trying to get pregnant for the first time, 1 out of 5. So we are definitely seeing an increase in how many people are struggling to get pregnant.
And why is that?
I think it's multifactorial. So we do see, maybe similar to you and your group text friends, that women are waiting longer to start their family because they're getting more education, they're chasing big dreams, they're just not ready at the age they were ready to in previous generations. And as we talked about in yesterday's episode, egg quality, egg number, those decrease as we get older, making it harder. So part of it's age, but there's more to the picture too. There's a lot that comes to our environment, the world that we live in, how we care for our bodies in modern society, that are situations that our parents' generations just didn't face. When it comes to sperm counts have decreased 50% in 50 years. And so this is really
That is shocking.
That's
That's
shocking.
a shocking number.
huge
It's
number.
a huge number.
I want to take it back to the dark ages when I was in school, and they terrified you about teen pregnancy. And if you
Right.
even look at a girl the wrong way, she's going to get pregnant. And
Now it's like, let me stare at her and hope she does.
right. Now it seems, and when I did get pregnant with our 2 kids, 21, 23 years ago, it seemed inevitable.
Right.
And now we talk more and more, like LZ said, with
Yeah,
all
it
those
wasn't
sorority
a
sisters.
question. It was like, we're going to have
Yeah.
kids.
Right.
And now it seems like it's, we hope to have kids. We're going to try to figure out how to have kids. Why on earth in the last 50 years has sperm count gone down 50%?
Well, let's think about the average diet that people might have had 50 years ago. Let's think about the plastics in our environment. Think about the chemicals that we're exposed to on a daily basis, the electronics around us. Just the world is different. And I always say nothing is without consequence. And a part of this disregard for our health, some of the food that we're putting into our body, the way that we live our life, a lot of those toxins, the inflammation they cause in our body, they do build up and impact our eggs and our sperm over time.
So even though we're born with all of our eggs, as we learned on yesterday's episode, if we didn't know, the life you're living can, while those eggs are in your body, can create wear and tear and affect your eggs. They're not preserved in there.
So a great,
Okay.
really well-established example is smoking cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes, you are going to have worse egg quality, so more chromosome damage to the eggs, lower chance of pregnancy, higher miscarriage rate, and you're going to run out of eggs faster. You will go into menopause earlier if you smoke compared to non-smokers. When you look at men who use marijuana, we see higher rates of miscarriage in female partners. We see lower fertility rates, and we see lower testosterone levels. They have a harder time even feeling their best, which then sets off a whole nother set of problems. So a lot of these behaviors are things that people might do and not think that much to it, or they think, I'll stop that when I'm ready to get pregnant,
Right.
not understanding the really lasting consequence that some of our choices might have on our bodies.
Are miscarriages up as well? You mentioned sperm decreased by 50%. You mentioned miscarriages. Are those up
Those
as
are
well?
up as well.
Okay.
And so we see an increase in miscarriage prevalence. Of course, we see it more common as we're older. And so seeing a shift in when people are trying to get pregnant causes that. But even in younger women, we see a 25% increase in miscarriage rate than we used to see a couple decades ago.
Even in younger women.
Even in young
Why do you
women.
think that is?
I think it's really tied. I think it's all tied together. I always say the world has to make sense. So a lot of this is inflammation, food choice, the life we're living, but a lot of things go hand in hand. Obesity levels are rising. We see increase in autoimmune disease, which impacts fertility.
So
Stress
Dr.
levels are up as well.
And Dr. Crawford, this was something I struggled with during the egg freezing process, was the pressure to be perfect.
I know.
Because I read this book, what's that egg book?
It starts with the egg.
It starts with the egg. And they basically tell you, I started to read it right when I was about to go into the process. And they basically tell you, 4 months ago, you should have stopped drinking any alcohol and stopped getting your nails done, stopped getting a spray tan. You should have gotten in touch with God. You should, it's like, you know what I mean? It is a little all or nothing. So there's a lot of pressure with it. I want to talk to you about that pressure, about how you help your patients, and also maybe what we can do in a world that seems overwhelming. We're going to get to all that when we come back. And thank you, Dr. Crawford, for being here. We'll be right back with that. Welcome back to Through the Drama. We are with Dr. Natalie Crawford talking the stress, the pressure of getting pregnant in these very infertile times. So Dr. Crawford, even when I was just doing egg freezing, and this was not me trying to get pregnant, I felt bad if I don't know, I'll be honest. I've done this 3 times. I have had a glass of wine at different points. And then in my head, I would kind of go, but like a bunch of people just got accidentally pregnant after a drunken night. So these eggs are going to be fine. I'm fine. But how real are these factors where I know it's like I know what you're saying is so real about inflammation in the body and trying to be healthy, but at the same time, it feels impossible, if I'm being honest, to live up to that standard of perfection. This is very stressful.
It is stressful, and nobody expects you to be perfect. What I always like to reframe this and say is that it's the sum of the choices that matter, but no one single choice is going to prevent you from getting pregnant or help you get pregnant. It's really stepping back and looking at your entire life and everything that you're doing. You, for example, are overall a really healthy person. So that one glass of wine you have is going to be able to be a very small impact. Your body's going to be able to process and handle that inflammation because you're going to get sleep, you're going to work out, you eat healthy, and you're giving yourself the other tools. The same glass of wine might play really differently in somebody who's having a really poor diet, who's not getting sleep, who's really stressed. And so it's really thinking about it like the sum of everything matters much more. And it's not just, if I don't do it all, I shouldn't do any of it.
Well, when we're talking, I'm going back to egg freezing because it is just this kind of 1 month process. For example, I got a major migraine in 2 of the rounds that I did from the meds. I took headache medication. Did I kill the eggs?
You didn't kill your eggs. I think one thing that's important to know.
These are real
concerns, so we should answer them.
These are real tears we've shed.
So I think many people don't know this. When you think about inflammation in general, inflammation can be good and bad. We talk a lot about chronic inflammation, and this is the diet, the stress, the toxins that really build up in your body. But your body uses acute inflammation as a really important process. And one of these times is with ovulation. So if you're trying to get pregnant naturally, if you have pain right around the time where you're ovulating and you take what's called an NSAID medication, which is an anti-inflammatory pain medication like Motrin, ibuprofen, that actually can prevent the egg from being able to come out of the follicle it's growing in. And so you might get signs and feel like you've ovulated and hormone changes, but there's no egg en route. And so we tell people who are going through egg freezing, we don't want you taking it every single day because we don't want to be able to prevent egg maturation. But the reality is we're going into each of those follicles and getting those eggs. So your eggs were fine.
Okay.
You did not kill them all. But it is something that people who are trying to get pregnant, it's just another proof that all the science that people don't know.
Well, what are people supposed to do though with the fact that so much of what you're bringing up, and I know you might not have the answer, is out of our control? The environment we live in, what's in our food, the forever chemicals that are all around us.
Yeah. You know, you can't make decisions on data you don't know. So the first thing to do is to start educating yourself at a much earlier age. So that's why I love having public discussions about topics like this, because well before you want to conceive is really the best time to start making your health a priority for your own future fertility, your own future hormonal health, to go into menopause later. So trying to make healthy habits, not just as a, I'm gonna do this to freeze my eggs, or I'm gonna do this to get pregnant, but because having a lower inflammatory lifestyle is good for prevention of disease, for longevity, and really making that a focus earlier on. This includes conversations about understanding how your body works, what's a normal period, when do you ovulate, so that you're armed with the ability to get help earlier medically if you are wanting to conceive. But again, it's more about treating your body in a way that's going to set the stage so that you don't have disease later. And it starts with learning about it, right? We can't change that we live in Texas where it's 1,000,000 degrees, but we choose what we might eat for lunch, or we choose what we do when we go to the bar with friends later. You know, we are making active choices every day. The sum of those choices really do matter much more than just one choice.
There is an old school archaic way of thinking when you say we can't get pregnant. You think, oh, she can't have a baby.
Yes.
When in reality, I'm hearing over 50% of the time, well over 50% now, it is the sperm count. It is the guy that cannot impregnate his wife. There is a big problem right now. And I was stunned, over 50% drop in sperm count. How do we fix that? How can we help that?
So to your first point, yes, 1/3 of infertility is a male-only factor. 1/3 is actually a combined female-male factor, and then 1/3 would be female only. So this idea that it's usually just the female is so far from truth. On the
Very Handmaid's Tale.
It is a little bit.
It is.
But if we think about sperm, you know, on the good end of sperm is they're so different from eggs. The sperm lifespan is about 90 days. So sperm are created brand new and fresh. Unlike women who are born with all their eggs, a sperm will generate over the course of about 70 something days inside the testes, and then it takes a couple weeks for it to come through the ejaculatory system until you see it in the sperm sample. So that means, Chris, one change that you make right this moment, the sperm who will be in the ejaculate 3 months from now are completely brand new. So sperm are highly, highly sensitive. They're very sensitive to our environment. I think that's why we're seeing such a huge drop with sperm counts. But on the plus, it shows you that what you can do can make a much more tangible benefit.
Okay.
And things like marijuana use, smoking cigarettes, that can be very harmful to sperm. But
I'm so glad to learn that men have something that's highly sensitive.
But I also heard like little things like don't carry your phone in your front pocket by your testicles. Don't put your laptop
in your lap,
Yeah.
no hot tubs and saunas, even outdoor cycling for prolonged periods of time. The testes are outside the body because sperm generation needs to occur at a lower body temperature. So we don't want to be increasing that.
Okay, you've talked so much about inflammation and you just mentioned saunas. We've been hearing from our doctors, saunaing is so key to lower inflammation, to get toxins out of your body. So should women be doing saunas if they're trying to do egg freezing and fertility?
And men shouldn't, apparently.
I mean, and IVF?
Men definitely shouldn't. For women, when it comes to inflammation, I think that there's a little bit of a personal response, meaning some people do great and they feel really rested, you know, the sauna feels refreshed, and other people hate it. And so I think there's a little bit of a difference in what may impact us individually that we have to give cadence to. It's not something that I tell people, but I include it into the sum of we want to decrease inflammation and decrease your stress. And that may look different for you and me. Maybe it's acupuncture, journaling, yoga, but maybe it's a sauna for you.
I've been avoiding the sauna because I was worried I was baking the eggs.
You're not
scrambling them up in there.
You're not baking the eggs.
I thought I was
in your
poaching 'em.
internal
Oh,
environment
yeah.
already.
No soft boil.
As you can tell, Dr. Crawford, I maybe should have been asking you a few more questions during this process
Right.
instead of turning to Chris and asking him, am I burning the eggs?
As if I'm going to have the answer.
So, but you did help me with a couple specific things, like supplements. You told me to take CoQ10.
CoQ10. Yes.
What does that do and how key is that in the process?
The CoQ10 is important in mitochondrial health and helping bring energy to our eggs. Another thing that people don't realize is that your egg is actually frozen in a stage of cell division. So we think about your chromosomes inside your body, your 46XX, that's a normal female chromosome. Your egg has them all lined up, 23X, 23X, and it's not until the very last stage of egg maturity, which happens right before we take them out of your body, that they split and they go into that final stage where the egg would be just 23X that would be fertilized by sperm. Because of that, anything that's important for that cell health, that cell division, that egg health, is really key to having proper division of the chromosomes. And so CoQ10 is a supplement that you can take, and it can help with that mitochondrial health and decrease inflammation. If anybody has infertility or is going through egg freezing, it's something that I recommend.
So, as I said, you are so good at this educational part and the human part. What is it like for you to have conversations with people who are coming in, have been trying to get pregnant, are questioning if they want to have kids and do egg freezing? What's the emotional part like for you? You must have to play doctor and therapist.
I do a lot, Lauren, and I often say I have the best job and the worst job because I don't have 100% success. By definition of some of the numbers we've even talked about, we see how far they are from 100%. We see how much age can impact this, and after all the things we've talked about, what you can't change is your age. And so if you're not in a position to intervene earlier, you're kind of stuck with the age where you are. And that can be really hard. Some people don't have the financial means to go through multiple cycles. We see couples who are at really different points and what they might want for their future or what they're willing to invest into this process. So a lot of times having to bring them back. And I think this is one reason why I always say, I love that you have your friend group and your text group and you've shared this, because getting support from people is so important during the process. It helps break the stigma down. You don't feel isolated and alone. We've got to open that up to help let people help you.
Dr. Crawford has walked us through a very emotional, very personal experience in our lives. When we come back, I have some questions for the ladies, doctor and patient. That's next.
Welcome back, everybody. We're with Dr. Crawford talking egg freezing, fertility, IVF. Dr. Crawford, I wanted to ask you about the education part of this. Because I came to you and through this process, I've learned so much, but like through you and through my own research. And like I said, I wish I'd done egg freezing a few years earlier. So I was with a gynecologist, my gynecologist in LA when I was in my early 30s. And I said to her, I'm not sure I want to have kids. I don't think I want to have kids. Do you have any advice for me? And she said, if you're not 100% sure, don't do it. You should, she said, you should only have kids if you really want to. Which, like, by the way, that was her opinion. The only thing I wish she'd said in that moment is, what about egg freezing?
Right.
And where is that gap? Why? Because you are a gynecologist who now does fertility. Why are gynecologists not talking to patients about this more? Because I don't think they are.
It's a good question, and I hate that experience. But unfortunately, you're not alone in going through that. So all fertility doctors are gynecologists, but not all gynecologists are fertility doctors, right? That means I did additional training afterward. The reality is so many women wait for their gynecologist to say, you should see a fertility doctor or you should freeze your eggs. The truth is, those visits are really short with your gynecologist. You know, the healthcare system is not meant to have these really long visits to dive into these. And often they're much more focused on pap smears, preventive health, and contraception if you don't want to be pregnant. The truth is, if having a kids is a life goal, so it's a little bit different than you, but if having kids is a life goal and you're not ready to start that conversation by age 31, 32, you should take matters into your own hands, advocate for yourself. You can see a fertility doctor without getting a referral. You can call my office, you can call any office and get seen. But also, if you're on the fence, I have seen women freeze their eggs, never use them, and they never regretted it because it gave them opportunity, right? It's an investment, it's peace of mind. It's, hey, if I want to do this later, I have a chance versus no chance or having that door closed, which we know is what's going to happen naturally to every single one of us.
We cannot turn back the clock.
Yeah. And I want to bring this back to your decision to do this in the first place. Are you glad you did this? Are you glad you took this step?
Well, I did it. Yeah, we did the third one. And I'm very glad I did it. I have no regrets about this at all. In terms of like doing it now. Like I said, I wish I'd done it a few years earlier, but it's weird. I think even though we don't intend to have kids, it brought us closer together, which was something I didn't expect. but like going through that was really good for us. And I felt his support, and it 100% has given me peace of mind. I know that maybe I wasn't perfect. I'm probably always going to be mad at myself. Like,
No.
I could have done better. Why did I, take that hot shower? The eggs are now over
The hot
easy.
shower didn't do anything. We're good.
But
Do you
yeah.
mind, Dr. Crawford, moving in with us? Please, this is what I need. This is what I need.
Well, we're text friends now, so
Yes.
Lauren can just send her questions right on
Oh
over.
my God, I did not have her phone number before we set up this interview. That would have been bad.
But no, I truly want to say I'm so proud of you through this. I have supported you through this. I don't understand a husband or a significant other that would not support this because, as Dr. Crawford very astutely said, it's an investment. It's not an indictment. It's not a promise of anything. You're not, committed. It's just something that you have to do at a certain time to be successful at it. And I'm really proud. We went from me giving you shots. You've been giving you your own shots.
I
It's-
overcame my fear of needles.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. These compliments are hard to take. What about you? Any takeaways from all this, or?
There has been an emotional roller coaster. I'm not going to lie, but for me too, it was something that I thought about a lot, for you and I. But again, I think communication is the key with any big decision like this. The communication between the two of us, and I think it did bring us closer together. And I feel like you are a great doctor, but also a great psychologist. And I think that's part of being a good doctor.
Well, I think it is too, but there's a lot of important conversations that come up when it comes to egg freezing or IVF, that if you're in a healthy relationship, you're going to have to talk about the future, hard circumstances, and that's going to be helpful. And the one last thing I'll say is that if you're on the fence about having kids in the future, egg freezing is never wrong, even if you're with a partner, even if you're married. It's just an opportunity to keep the door open later.
Dr. Crawford, thank you. I know we did 2 days. We could do many, many more talking about this, and maybe we'll dive back into it. I'm very proud of you. It's been a journey.
It's certainly been some drama for Chris Harrison, but ultimately that drama has given us peace of mind. And that's what we always want to do on Through the Drama for all of you. Thank you guys, and we will see you next time because we've got a lot more drama together. Bye.